Welcome to ThugCrowd Radio. Please listen to this important disclaimer in its entirety. All participants of this ThugCrowd Radio episode are characters. None of the stories told during these episodes are based on facts, truth, or reality. All works of fiction displayed during this episode that resemble real-life situations are coincidental and are not meant to serve as guides or tutorials to commit any crimes in any country. Please consult an attorney for local laws and regulations. And as always, trust your inner criminal.
Hello, everybody.
Yo.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
Woo. Actually,
My other kid also says hi.
Hello, both kids.
hello, children.
Hi.
Yo. So, how's everyone doing today?
I had a tooth pulled out of my head like 5 hours ago.
Which one?
An important one.
Important one.
I signed a job offer. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yo, so I'm just trying to run in just some levels real quick. But yo, yeah. So, hello everybody, and welcome to ThugCrowd episode 50. We're talking to BlueTeamVillage in a little bit about Blue Team stuff. Posted the show notes in the chat. Rip to MySpace. We have an audio echo, someone's saying. Hopefully not for long. But yeah, so how's everyone doing today? Is everybody doing anything cool the weekend?
Yeah, so this is the weekend of the year that the Formula One is around. So I was scanning for frequencies and decoding some stuff again, which is no different to really what I did last year. So the slides from last year are basically what I did this year.
Oh yeah. So how are you doing that with a an SDR?
Yeah, with a Blade. I was using a Blade RF. You don't need a Blade RF, but you could probably do it with an RTL SDR. And yeah, just scanning with GQRX and piping it through DSD, which is a decoder for Motorola TRBO, which is fun stuff. Fun to listen to, like the things that happen like around, like, you know, you see on the TV a broadcast and then, you know, there's like 100 people working in the background.
Yeah.
And you can hear, like, you scan through and you hear like the people going like, cut to camera 1, cut to camera 2, and like getting ready to do interviews and stuff. Just all weird FM stuff around like 400 megahertz ish.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. It's also really cool that you just like hear that as close as you are and just be able to like see it and then hear it in real time. Be like, here's what's happening in the background. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. The funniest thing I heard was there was a fire at one point with one of the cars, and about 20 minutes later, I think I hear like the race control radio be like, send like section whatever, send a fire marshal around to this place, and they're like, why? And like, just send a fire marshal around. It's like, why do you think? Because there's probably a fire. Like, send them around.
Yeah, it sounds rough. It sounds real stressful to like organize a race. There's so much stuff going on. Everyone's going wicked fast.
Oh, big event.
Hell yeah. Oh, awesome. So yeah, I guess we can get right into the news unless somebody has anything else to want to talk about real quick.
Oh, I built a Atari synth console.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. The Atari Punk console with the
Yeah.
five timers.
Yeah, man, that's fun.
Those are a lot of fun to make. Those like I was talking to people, talking to Decoded in IRC about getting some. He told me that he paid somebody to grind down ill-fitting solder tips with a grindstone, and I think they might actually do that because I can't find any soldering tips for the soldering station I have. But then once I do, definitely want to build some synths because that kind of stuff is so much fun to do.
Yeah, I don't know what the next step is going to be. Like, I built it on a breadboard
Mhm.
just to make sure it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sick though. Yeah, man, keep going. Make some pedals too. I think I talked to you about that Echo chip too, the PT 2399. It's amazing. Hell yeah though. Alrighty, so I guess the next next thing of the night will be to go into the news. So if you guys take a look at our MySpace page and look in the comments section, you'll see our news section. So the first story here is about MySpace, and so this is pretty sad. It's also like if this happened 10 years ago and MySpace lost everything from the start, I feel like this would be the most catastrophic thing in the history of social media. But apparently, MySpace has lost a ton of stuff, audio, video, photos, a bunch of different media from 2015 all the way from 2003. And yeah, they've lost over 50 million songs, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. This is
It's
interesting.
definitely like I'm sure there's people whose profiles and stuff. I know you've been able to delete your profile and whatever for a while, but there's a lot of people who probably thought, like, thank God, like I've lost access to that account and now it's been deleted for me. Sweet.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I feel like some very embarrassing childhood memories are definitely now lost to the ages, which is probably not going to happen in many other different websites.
Yeah, I tweeted earlier that like it's actually sad because like I have a lot of friends who have since died. And they have a lot of music they put up there that literally doesn't exist or didn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that. I mean, obviously, probably anything that was on MySpace, you probably could have expected to go this way, but
yeah, I mean, it's something that I think they're going to go somewhere. I was surprised when I made this show notes this week that there were even still pages or websites that were dedicated to making MySpace assets from like 2000. Like somebody is paying the infrastructure bill on, MySpace coding pimp my profile free.tk. Like someone's still paying for that. I don't know why. Because it's not even applicable. You couldn't even actually apply the templates the way that you could before. So it's definitely interesting to see that there's just that out there, and the fact that it just can kind of go away in an instant like that.
MySpace, although like the CSS that you wrote for making MySpace templates was so painful as well, because you'd be like, all right, this div and then like this directive below it 5 times and then this p tag. Like you had to really you had to start to understand CSS because it was just such a ridiculous way that you made like quote layouts.
Yeah, you had to like know about like all the sub, like how to inherit stuff and like sub tags and classes and stuff. It was absolutely insane.
Like order of inheritance as well. Like
yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody know how the data was actually like lost?
Deleted.
Setting a server migration. I mean, I don't know what catastrophic server migration could kill like 90% of your actual assets, but it seems like a pretty bad one, if not intentional.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I managed to delete all of prod in my second week as a junior developer. Like, shit can happen.
It's just like, I mean, I would assume also that they probably, because of how long it's been and how many hands it's changed, that it's probably very, very difficult to actually understand the full breadth of like what MySpace actually is. You know, like to be like, what, like there's no like, there was no like DevOps at the time. There's no like EBS to like store things on, and like also the different reliability and snapshots and things. It was probably, I don't know, like some like Java app that was just like stood up somewhere, and then a database that had some really insane queries, and then yeah, everything was just kind of cludged together. I could imagine.
Don't forget as well that MySpace wasn't a single technology. Like there was like part was PHP, part was .NET, like part was.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was like DL, like the statically compiled DLLs, like IIS is calling like ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they made like this one app. They just made like all this trash and like cobbled it together, and then that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, at that time too, like 2005, 2006, like adding a new feature to a website was not easy. There's no like agility. It was just like make a thing and then make it talk to another thing.
There's also there's also that lovely aphorism that a backup doesn't count until you've tested it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Unless they have some like worm drives somewhere that are just these massive like tapes that just somehow have all of our scene phase pictures on it.
I imagine all the backups are on tape somewhere. MySpace tape backups.
I'll put I
think you mean MySpace mixtapes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely think it's interesting to see how that goes, and I feel like there's going to be more stuff like this happening down the road as there's data loss. We didn't cover it before, but there was the reports of SoundCloud disk rot that was being evidenced by older songs, which I can imagine is indicative of what's to come in the future for improper data storage, especially for a lot of the companies that started out very, very tiny and scaled very quickly and have a lot of infrastructure that's kind of just sitting there mysteriously hoping nobody actually touches it.
I think considering that, I guess in a way that SoundCloud has probably produced more popular artists than MySpace. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm going to guess like that SoundCloud today, like people quote blow up on SoundCloud. It's like people's dream to get famous on SoundCloud. Like MySpace was a little bit of that. It was like originally like like music and that, but it was more just like let's connect. It was the social media thing that really took it off. Whereas SoundCloud is like specifically I'm trying to make music and get it up there, kind of thing. That's what people are using it for. So I think if SoundCloud look at this and predict what may happen to them in the future, that would probably be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but like how much how big is 50 million songs?
I mean,
like 150 million
by 3
megabytes.
Mega something.
Yeah, they probably just had it all encoded because they must have transcoded it from whatever the format was to MP3 or something very much more compressed at that time.
Well, at the time, I would say it would be MP3 for sure. Like that was the that's all they were. Like 128K MP3. If you didn't, that was about as good as you needed.
Like, 128. Look at you with the big pipe, huh?
Well, I mean, anything you could hear the difference in anything less than 128, but the difference between 128 and 192 was not as noticeable to the ear, I guess.
Yes. But yeah, Inklewater just said in chat though that there's so much stuff is just gone from early internet, which is true, and it's gonna keep going. It's like definitely stuff getting just like being gone is just definitely a fact of life, and I think that like people, I guess, if they want to archive something, definitely should just keep their own backups for it, which is why I hoard the shit out of a lot of data.
Well, that and it's it's pretty hard to archive things for 20, 30 years
Absolutely.
on anything other than, well, paper.
Yep.
If you really want to keep something from the internet, send it to Jason Scott, Text Files. He'll take care of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should keep going because we have a lot of news to cover here. The next one here is pretty interesting too. This is people were using Slack for CD purposes, where they were basically just using Slack as a way to serve up different assets, which is pretty genius for hitting any developers or any professionals, because anything on Slack is likely going to be whitelisted, especially like a doc or PDF. And yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting.
A lot of firewalls that do inspection as well are going to allow, they're whitelisted for content as well. So when you get build alerts and things through Slack, it might contain a stack trace or something, right? That your stateful, that your inspecting firewall or whatever your dirty WAF will block in the office. Whereas Slack has got that wireless, baby, because everyone needs to use a hosted service for their bullshit.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the same thing that we've seen on Discord as well. Just people being able to just kind of upload whatever the hell they want to the CDN, and you can. I think I POC'd a website that was hosted from the Discord CDN, just by going backwards from what I put onto it to finally making the main page and referencing all the CDN URLs, and then it's just a website you have just living in the Discord CDN and served up by the CDN. So yeah, that's going to continue to be a thing, and whitelisting traffic is always not your I guess the only line of defense, but we can definitely talk to the BlueTeamVillage a bit about that later on down the road.
Yeah, you want paranoia.
Hell yeah. So the next story we have here too is one of those things that people always say they did, and then people actually get caught for it this time. Some people had hacked their school's grading system and management system and changed grades and attendance. So rats off to you. Sucks you got caught though.
Yeah, if you really deserve those grades, you wouldn't have got caught.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I think kids, when they do these kind of things, they don't count on how much teachers actually pay attention to how bad of a student they are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you don't have all A's. You weren't here every day.
That's the other thing as well. That's the classic delete the logs type deal, right? You own the box, you delete the logs. Lol. No, own the box and clean the log. Don't change it to all A pluses. You just got C's, dude. Just pass. That's all you have to worry about.
Yeah.
I think
change
last semester's, change this semester's.
Yeah, I definitely think that one of the things that's difficult about doing something like this is that, as you were saying, people do pay attention. It's not like you're just changing digital currency or something on a video game. You were physically there. There's physical backups. There's security camera footage and papers that you didn't pass in that are all an audit trail that is going to eventually be counted when someone realizes that you're you have straight A's and you're the valedictorian of the class suddenly.
Well, it's going to depend also on the software they use for grade tracking. I mean, if you've got a situation where the teachers each have a specific client to go to put in the grades, then you've got a potential to influence that on the server side, and the teacher might not necessarily get that kind of feedback from it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, as far as you have to be a very lazy teacher to just print out the report without doing any checking at all or comparing to your own notes. But I do think though that it will be easier to do something like this when things become that much more automated. But they were saying that they had targeted a thing called Power School. It's a student information system. I don't know if Power School is a thing that they maybe use locally, like a smaller company that does it, or if it's a larger thing. But there's a lot of those sort of student and personnel management sort of tools that are you definitely ripe for attack.
There's as well some teachers, like, they keep their own records out, like, you know, the way however they choose to manage their data. So like some teachers would keep stuff written down in their book because they weren't really computer savvy, like especially when I was at school at least. But then there was like another teacher I knew who happened to use like FileMaker Pro, lol. And that was just like a single database, like no server side anything, but that was
Yeah.
you know, a thing. Like, so these like school systems that are like totally integrated, sometimes the teacher doesn't enter the grade until they're ready to enter the grade, you know, like whenever that is. And then I don't know how you guys have the comment system as well, when the teacher comments on a student, but there's, from what I believe, from what I understand and what I'd see from other kids' report cards, is like there was a series of canned comments that you'd like sort of link together to create the comment about the student rather than just like freeform text it.
Yeah.
And I guess the teacher could easily not notice that slightly being changed is the other thing.
Yeah. If it happens in droves with all of the bad kids, though.
Yeah. All the kids that have enough money to pay each other like the $10 to get their grades changed.
I was a bad kid.
So the next story that we have in here is pretty not surprising. 2/3 of Android's antivirus apps are found to be completely useless out of 250 apps that were tested. So yeah, there's a report of a test that was taken on a bunch of different Android apps, and they don't have any protection at all. And I would assume that probably out of these, most of those are a good chunk of those are actually malware themselves. And so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies that put a lot of money into making AV software for Android, and we'd had was it McAfee that was trying to do an Android like integrated thing that shipped with Google for Android. There's a couple of like big vendors in the space and stuff, but all they're doing is just trying to do it the same way that you would do it for a Windows system or something, where you just have like blacklists and they not really any like dynamic analysis of code, or I don't know. It's just like there's a whole different landscape of like permissions and things like that have to be taken into account that I could assume probably would be abused in new ways that are a step ahead of whatever AV vendor there is.
I think as well, if considering the amount of AV software available, like apps available, versus reputable AV companies that are actually doing research on what is malicious software for an Android device versus like, I'm going to write AV software. Like, I think a lot of people who set out as like that's their task are like low tier programmers who don't really get it yet. And maybe they can publish, anyone can publish an app on the App Store, right? So you're like, I'm going to make this AV, and it's like a 16-year-old kid, it's his first ever app, and he thinks he knows enough about AV to but he's never written any malicious software, versus like Symantec or versus anyone else in the AV game that's been in it for 20 years and knows what malicious software is, how to detect it, and so on and so forth.
Well, also, like, you see that traditional AV software just on like PC is like super intensive with like resource usage, and that's like the last thing that you want from something on a cell phone.
Yeah.
And you kind of get these folk models of security that come up in situations like this, where depending on when the person learned how to computer, they'll have a different opinion on, well, is AV software necessary? Is AV software appropriate? Will AV software actually do anything? Or is it something that you need for nebulous reasons and you're not really sure why, but you should have it, so you put it on there?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel that probably one of the bigger things in this is that there are definitely a lot of younger developers on this, and also the landscape of actual Android software itself is significantly different than the landscape of, like, say, stock Windows, right? Where you only have major versions to deal with. Everybody knows about the different patches, things like that. But there are a lot of vendor-specific things for each model of phone that sometimes can be vastly different in how they handle certain things. And because it's open source, they can have their own vendor-specific, kernel modules that they might load or something, or permissions that are overridden for whatever purpose of the vendor. Such as some of the ones that are, like, say, the just cheapo ones that kind of have like backdoors in them. that are leveraged by AV as well. And so it's hard to kind of account for all those differences in the different, imagine trying to make something that would work across every Linux version that was like an actual like binary that would try to do any sort of AV. It's like there's a bunch of different stuff where there's little nuances that you couldn't check, in every single one of them. So I can see that being insane.
I mean, we're in InfoSec, aren't we already insane?
Oh, yeah. So looking at like you're talking about like, kernel modules and stuff as well. Like I've seen a bunch of like userland style code calling system from kernelland, like weird things in SOC kernel modules as well. And it's like, well, how is your antivirus going to prevent your vendor supplied, kernel module from having malicious code in there or being executed like on the Android platform, like for an Android specific thing that like interacts with like this peripheral that doesn't exist. Like, there's so many of these like tiny ass edge cases that I think, I guess like compare it to an iPhone. Every iPhone's the same, right? It makes it way easier. And then just Android in general, like you also have the supply chain that we've talked about. I don't know how many times we've talked about Android supply chain now, but like Google to like vendor to like telco to like user, right? There's just like all these steps added. And then you're like, okay, take all that, like a billion different combinations or however many there are and apply AV to it. Like, lol, good luck, best of luck.
Yeah, the other thing too, right, is a lot of it's all permission based. So it's like, okay, is this app like exporting like uploading all of your photos because it's a photo app, or is it doing it because you just said, okay, yeah, go permissions?
Like, it doesn't really tell you exactly why. You can't really tell which functions are exported, saying, what is actually using this. Like, it's not like if you were to do like, I don't know. I wish that you could just do it the same way you do for like any other binary, where you could just analyze it and say, hey, what are you actually doing? Like, what do you actually want to do with this? Instead of very nebulous. But yeah, so speaking of Android malware, though, the next one here, so there was this adware that was found in 210 Android apps with over 150 million installs. So this gets pretty ridiculous too, because this is just people download games and they deal, or not even just games, like just any random app, and they just deal with the absurd amount of ads that are just jammed into it that make it almost sometimes not even work. And so this is a pretty cool write-up on how the actual adware works and is loaded, because it's just like essentially just like an adware or an ad serving platform that's kind of been weaponized. And so there's images of the like dashboard of this thing that you basically can use to control what is being sent to all these different phones. And it just gets pretty scary to think that there's just like in whatever sort of I guess whoever the app developer that you for an app you might even like decides to go with for their ad content to support them, you don't know like what they're actually doing and what they're pushing to you and from where and why.
But I mean, there's also like I've never written an ad delivery platform, but like there's a lot of things you take into account. For example, the screen resolution, the type of phone it is, the apps that they have installed. Like if you can tell anything about the device, right, you can then decide what ad to serve, like based on how much does the ad get. Because there's like, I think it's 5 stages of clicks from memory, where there's like stage 1 is like viewing the ad. Stage 2 is like if they click the ad. Stage 3 is landing on the app store, I think. And then 4 is installing it, and 5 is opening the app. And the payouts are like from the ad delivery companies, from the affiliate networks, are like per stage. Like that's from memory. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, like, but that's pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's something close to that. So
they couldn't spring.
Sorry,
they couldn't spring for a 12-step program.
Yeah, step 1 is admitting that you're serving ads, but the whole idea is that like you have, like, as an ad deliver, like as somebody delivering these ads, you have to try and get the person to go through the steps to actually get paid, because step 1 doesn't pay anything. So I guess like this like ecosystem has come around of like, all right, let's just jam all the ads that are most likely to be opened by the person, as well as like each ad pays out differently. So like one particular ad might pay out like $4.50 if they get to the fifth step. One ad might pay out like 20 cents. So you really want the $4.50 one to be served, but then you want to know that the person, like if the person you're serving it to is never going to open it, like there's just this whole complex system to do it. And I mean,
it gets out of control with the amount of like incentivization it has for each individual thing. Like you can just make it the same as like a phishing campaign or any other malware campaign, just to figure out exactly how you can do data on how many people are actually going to click it and like what the actual revenue is going to be from it, and you can fine tune it to make sure that people are actually going to click on it. Just fun.
So this entire weaponized like C2 thing is actually, you know, probably more common than we think. I would say that this is a really nice write-up of it, but I wonder how many others exist. Like, because if that's how you make money and people are still making money off this stuff, like it's got to be fairly advanced, right?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it's these are things that I know that are out there, and it gets crazier every time you see what people are actually doing to actually, you know, deploy this kind of stuff in the real world. So, but the next story that we have in here is something everybody's been talking about. This is Beta O'Rourke, who turned out to have been a member of Cult of the Dead Cow. It's pretty good stuff here. So people keep kind of flipping out about it. What's up?
I think my favorite part of this whole story was the CISP Googling Twitter account where it just said Cult of Dead Cow. So, like, what is Cult of Dead Cow? Like, because it's one of those things that, like, I guess anyone who's been around for, you know, a significant, not even a significant amount of time, like a period of time, knows about CDC, back office, whatever. Like, it's not a secret or anything. It's just interesting that it was part of it. And then there's a whole bunch of this new generation of people who are like, what is the Cult of the Dead Cow? What, you know, I think that's the funniest part.
Yeah, absolutely. I think though that it's definitely raised his profile in a lot of different circles, because one, a lot of people are excited that if, say, he were to become president, he does seem to have had a decent amount of communication with people that are technically adept, which is something that when you look at what the state of, like, you know, our current cybers are in the U.S. Giuliani. So we have Giuliani over here, whose Joomla website got hacked multiple times, probably does not have the chops to actually secure us from like anything and be able to at least understand policy. He doesn't have to be like sitting there in the trenches, like, you know, writing code, but to be able to understand at least the context of why people do things and how things go down online. Definitely seems like one of the more educated candidates in that field. It's interesting.
He might actually be able to run an email server, huh?
Yeah, I think it's important as well that somebody with this kind of background hasn't, you know, the insight really is, I guess, because there's more I don't know. It's people these days who learn about social media and they learn about you know, through like on a tablet, like they've learned after the fact, have a very different view of people who were using the technology as it came through. So,
hey, not Dan, is that really you?
it is really Dan.
It's really Dan. He tweeted out that he lost his Discord account.
Oh, okay. I was about to kick it. I was about to ban him and be like, fuck off. I didn't.
Confirm it is the real Dan, but I can't hear him.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people also have been making a big deal about his writings and stuff. CDC. I mean, obviously, Dave wrote a lot of weird shit. But I mean, I don't know. He was like 15 when he wrote it, so I really don't see that big of a deal. I wrote way weirder stuff.
Teenage poetry is always awful, but you just see that apparently he's been live tweeting his dentist visits since 1990.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool. I mean, I don't really. I mean, you got to time will tell, I guess, where he stands on other things, and if he actually makes a good person to run in the race. But it gives hope on somebody who actually gives a shit about stuff and understands the cybers, like we do.
So wait, does anyone outside of tech, like, is anyone still talking about this besides us? Make like
No, I don't think so.
Wait, talking
Also,
about
no, the CDC stuff. Well, in
Oh.
particular.
Oh, I saw, what was it? Death Vegetable had put out a thing from from Sean Hannity that I saw, like, I think it was yesterday, where he talks about Coastal Dead Cow, and he just has no understanding like you would expect. And it's pretty awesome. I actually meant to put that as the background image of a GIF that I was trying to make.
I think that like this will reflect negatively with like the super normie people as well. Like, oh, it's like people still have said to me like, "You're an internet hacker, you're gonna go to jail," and I'm like you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
people still think hackers are bad. In the general, like, oh, if you ever hack my Facebook account, like whatever, it's like, dude, I don't even know who you are, and I'm never gonna hack your Facebook account. Like, that's a really weird thing. Please don't say that. That's makes it awkward and uncomfortable. But
Oh yeah.
so I think there's those people who will see this, like voters who are gonna go like, he was a hacker, like what a bad man. Like, whereas it's not necessarily true at all.
Well, also, like, I was wondering, like, to kind of get his like thought on it, and like I went to his Twitter account, and he didn't tweet about it at all, which shows that it's not something that he necessarily thinks is a positive thing, going forward, or probably wanted anyone to really dig into in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like they took some pretty great pains to actually prevent people from knowing that, which is pretty good OPSEC if you think about it, to hide it for that long. Because
Yeah.
he rose to the ranks, he's like a senator. Like, he's not like he's been on the public stage for a while now, and no one knew. So it's definitely interesting to see. I feel like he probably just doesn't want that to also overshadow everything else that he's doing, which I think is a smart move. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people though, like, are just definitely going to keep misunderstanding it, which is predictable. But I think that I'll definitely watch what he does. And also, I want to send him a CLSSP. So I'm going to do that later this week. We got his PO box.
Oh god, that's great.
Oh damn.
No, it is.
Damn.
Yeah, I had some issues, but I'm here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but it was like I saw somebody wrote, "Look at all these federal." It was like I think a Republican senator or something calling him out for all of his federal crimes. It was Ted Cruz, the Zodiac
Oh
killer.
right. Yeah. But they were misdemeanors anyway, right? Like, they weren't felonies at all.
Yeah, probably.
well, they were back then.
Yeah.
Limitations, baby.
Limitations. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, no, I definitely think that like people are gonna use it against him as much as they can, and they will look foolish for it. So it'll be funny to watch. But yeah, so the next one is kind of heavy. This one is about the New Zealand ISPs that are going to be blocking sites that fail to remove the Christchurch shooting video. And so we've seen a lot of stuff about this, seen a lot of commentary about this, but I included this because this specifically deals with internet censorship, and it's such a hard fucking paradox for us to have to face as human beings and users of the internet and people who like both freedom of speech and privacy. It's I don't even know where to begin on it.
So this is actually extended to Australia as well. Australia, like Telstra, at least, they're actively blocking this, as far as I know.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's up to the ISPs to have to block this. I don't think it's a telecommunications issue. I think it's like a human problem, and that if you're a human, and you shouldn't be. One of the things, so Zach Whitaker, that we quote a lot from TechCrunch, he posted like, don't post the shooter's name. Like, on Twitter, he posted, don't post the shooter's name, don't post his manifesto, don't post the videos. And the first goddamn response with the most likes and retweets was like a video of like part of the live stream. And I was like, you son of a, like, when I saw it, like the guy who posted, I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to keep doing this anyway, and ISPs are going to futilely try and block it, which, I mean, they have the best intention at heart. But then you look further onto like the Kiwi Farms stuff. Did you guys see the post between? Yeah. And I think it's like the responsibility of people not to share. Like, I know Kiwi Farms are like well known for like milking the locale and whatever, but it's still this is a people thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's like when I saw when I saw that this thing had it was just straight up like a fucking 8chan thing, and the fact that I knew that there were just going to be people that were going to immediately start just only posting it out. I mean, like, someone posted it in our Discord like an hour after it happened. Like, it's just dude. People are they want to be edgy and shocking and have the most extreme thing, and it's sad that that's just how people feel like they have to be, to just try to do things without ever considering the fact that there's other people's who might actually, people who are in the server who are from New Zealand, who might know people who have actually been involved in that. Like, everything's a world away to people who just stay inside all day. But I think that like something that's like really important though to remember is that having information out there is also critical to people being able to understand the world. And I think that like I posted in the comment section on MySpace the EFF's response, which was about ways that websites and ISPs and tech companies can actually try to approach this, and that would be to like approach it by having more transparent guidelines of how you actually monitor content, and actually being more sort of like upfront and have guidelines that differentiate between people who might be sharing something in order to raise awareness about something because it's a bad thing, versus people who are doing it strictly to hurt others. Because there's people that have, I mean, people have also brought up the fact that like ISIS did all those beheadings and stuff, and how that was fine, even though like that wasn't fine, but people were sharing that kind of stuff because they were like, holy shit, this is happening. There's literally like, ISIS is beheading people in public and filming it with like 4K video cameras, and so like it's fucked up because you don't want to propagate that and have people take that and think that it's okay to do, or it's a normal thing that should be happening. But then you also don't want to censor it so that people don't know that it's happening. And it's just like, it's such a paradox that I feel like a lot of people completely miss when they just think that, oh, I just want to be able to share it because I want to be cool online. Like, it's just, I don't know, there's way too much at stake or at play here.
And then also on the other hand, right, when you have the less news organizations you have posting something, right, the greater like the financial payoff is to post it, right, in one way, right? Because if you're the only person who posts a thing on the internet, you're going to get all the page views for that thing. So it creates a financial incentive for people to post it when other people aren't.
There's different layers involved too. I mean, you've got your ISPs at one layer, but then you've got the various platforms which operate at a whole different layer and have an entirely separate locus of control. So they are based in different areas. I mean, Facebook and Twitter and such are not based in New Zealand. So New Zealand's ability to respond to content on Facebook and Twitter and such is going to be inherently limited in that sense.
Yep.
So
well,
it's a very difficult thing.
Sorry, I was just going to say on that, like, fortunately, New Zealand is part of Five Eyes, and this is under, it's a terror attack. It's attack on, it's to cause terror. So I'm sure that that anyone working, the Five Eyes are working together. That New Zealand law enforcement are probably working very closely with US law enforcement, and where it's being hosted in the US, regardless of if that person is or isn't out of the country. Like, I'm sure that someone in the FBI office is working very closely. That's what I would definitely guess.
Yeah, I would agree.
We had some good comments on the chat. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Remy?
Oh, well, I wasn't sure I was gonna say anything, but I unmuted my mic and got all this attention now. But like, I think I just want to ask a basic question, right? why is the video getting suppressed, right? Because I can think of a bunch of possible explanations, but they all have weird responses. Like, I don't particularly like seeing the World Trade Center towers exploding, but there's not really a movement to not show that on like every chance they can get on television.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons that this is being suppressed so hard is because you're clearly seeing as many people, like almost equal numbers of people being killed of the Vegas shooter, right? And this is close up. This is body cam footage. This is like legit. Like, I haven't watched the footage myself. I saw some snippets that I wish I'd never seen. And you know, it's people.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a kid and you see this as a kid, like you know, like, I don't want to be all like protect the children or whatever, but really, like, this will burn into your brain. Like, this kind of shit burns into your brain, and you don't need to see it. If you choose to see it, it's one thing, but then you gotta wonder why.
It's like any of the gore videos, right? But this one's different in the sense that, going back to kind of what you were getting at, is I think it's because it's self-produced by the actual terrorist himself. And because he produced and released it, like, it wasn't the news media that filmed airplanes doing something anomalous. This was a guy that filmed, produced, and edited his own death video, and I think that's why it's being treated a lot differently.
Okay, yeah, I can feel that, right? Because he wanted it to be seen, so it's a response. It's a response to him wanting it to be seen by saying, "No, we're not going to watch it."
It's definitely classified as a snuff film. I think like you would like this would be classified as snuff. People watching it for the sake of seeing people.
And perhaps we can come to a conversation about the nature of, well, for lack of a better term, terrorist propaganda and the appropriate responses and such as they've evolved over the 21st century, which sounds kind of like a college course at this point.
Yeah. Also, it's worth noting that blocking videos of the event is a lot easier in this case when there's one video of the event. It's not like it happened in a field or, you know, in an open environment. It happened in an enclosed space where there was, you know, anyone who was in that space was not thinking to film. And like, I don't know how many people even made it out of that place, but it's just technically more feasible to block something when there's only one actual video of the event. You could, you know, do a lot more with. And it says Facebook blocked over 1.2 million uploads of the video because of that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's insane.
I think as well, like the manifesto, which I also refuse to read, but I know people have mentioned parts of it to me as well. He wrote this in weeks prior to however long it's been. I think 2 years in the planning or something. And another man was arrested he shared a meme about a week earlier that was like, you know, when I say meme, I mean in meme, like the standard meme format these days, you know, the impact font or whatever, of like, I think it said target acquired or something with a picture of the mosque. And that guy was also arrested, like, because he obviously had some knowledge of the attack prior to it happening.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so like this is like obviously a China thing. Like a lot of the comments that the guy made in the manifesto that I've seen around are like ridiculous. Like,
Wow.
I don't think he's a very smart person, and he's chosen. Well, obviously he's not a very smart person, but he's chosen to represent himself in court as well. Which just means that
Good.
he knows he's going to jail forever. Like that's a given. There's no death penalty in New Zealand, but he's going to go into court and he's going to spout his bullshit, like his hate speech in court because he's representing himself, and then just go to jail forever. So I think we'll see that. Sorry, go on.
It's the Breivik playbook.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that the most of the court proceedings will be suppressed simply out of not spreading his mess, letting him spread his mess.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely. So we're going back to what I was looking at in the chat. Hold on, let me scroll up. There's a lot of good chat in here. But yeah, so Bobby Blam said people are sharing it as entertainment, which is like probably one of the most just like fucked up things about it is that people are doing this kind of thing. They see this as like entertainment. They think it's cool. They think it's like funny. They want to like, look at what this guy's doing because it's funny because he's saying the stupid like memes from 8chan. Like it's just because people are doing that, like they see it as almost just like part of like some like larger like game narrative that they have because they don't take anything seriously. Like people just who never had anything bad happen to them who just get to sit at home and live at their parents' house, like just get fed pizza rolls by their mom all day, like that kind of thing. Literally, like those are the people who think this is cool and think this is funny, and they just will go and just they're propagating it because they think it's their right to do so, and they think it's their entertainment.
In our space as well, like there's development, there's places that build apps and stuff. Like there's developers and stuff who work like within a couple of blocks of that place as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're likely to be in the same sphere, like same chat rooms, same Slack channels and stuff as edgy teen lords that are like, teen edge lords, whatever. They're like spreading the kind of stuff. And, you don't, that if you go to spread it before, if you are the kind of person who's going to spread it, just think like you might be spreading it to somebody whose loved one is getting killed in that video. Like you don't know that. You have no idea who, like when you're spreading this. So like, that might make it around. And like, if it was you, would you want to see someone that you love being killed? Like, definitely not. Like,
yeah,
fucked up.
A lot of people though just they can't really understand that until it's too late. I mean, I would admit to when I was younger being super into like the most fucked up videos because it was extreme, and a lot of people do that when they get on the internet because they find that kind of content and they're like, this is interesting. It's like it goes from there's divergent paths from morbid curiosity to like actually thinking, like believing in that sort of thing, or coming to terms with it and being, this is fucked up. Like I never want to see this stuff again. Like I'm at that point now where I'm like, I don't want to see gore. I've seen enough of the worst shit of fucking humanity.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see any more of it. But there's people that are still in that stage, and it's because there's so much content and so many specific platforms. People can just stay in that hole forever and just never ever leave the sort of like weird cycle of like just look at weird death pictures and try to hurt other people online and just gang up everybody.
And you've also got the naive suggestion algorithms that seem to be extremely popular, where, to use the Amazon example, I see you've bought a horse. How would you like 12 more?
Yeah.
Which applies to the YouTube video thing, which applies to, well, it's the easiest one to implement if you think about it. They watch this, they spent a lot of time on this, we want to shell out a whole bunch of ad money. Hey, let's just keep shoveling more in.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should probably move on to this. We've been talking about it for a while.
Absolutely. We should
but I just wanted to finish it off with the Prime Minister of Australia is an idiot and he wants to suspend all live streaming. So let's keep going.
Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So speaking of people trying to control stuff that they can't control, Devin Nunes suing Twitter for allowing accounts to insult him. This is the funniest thing that I've seen in a while. So Devin Nunes has been getting mocked by tons of different people, specifically the Devin Nunes or Devin Cow parody account. And he put up, what is it, $250 million lawsuit against Twitter and the accounts in damages. This is insane. Like, to think that like so he's also turned it from it just being slander to Twitter is actively trying to deplatform and shadow ban conservatives. Is just like weird, like just I don't know. It's just really grasping at straws here, trying to get this whole thing to work.
Somebody needs to throw an egg at his head.
I think it's good. It's like who specifically are the trolls? Like when you have like a bunch of troll accounts that are just like nameless, faceless people, like who are the trolls and how are you shadow banning all of them and how are they not creating new accounts? Lol. Like you just have no understanding of the internet, fool.
Yeah, I think I said that the other day. It's like people blame all that kind of stuff on it, but then realize maybe no one actually cares what we have to say.
Hey, did you notice the followers on the cow account went from like 1,200 to I don't even know what it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Yeah, it's definitely like a Streisand effect kind of thing because now people are just creating endless accounts of Nunes. Where if you search Devin Nunes, other accounts show up before his, which is just at Devin Nunes. So yeah, it's definitely getting out of control because people are obviously going to keep making meme accounts, and you can just there's just you can make endless accounts, about this. And so I think that by trying to sue all the different accounts, it's fruitless. It's just like trying to sue everybody who sends you a spam email. It's just like it's never gonna happen. And like it sucks though that like then if he does make any headway with it, then it could lead to some other legal challenges down the road for people who just want to make like Nunes on security, which I don't think has been taken like account. It sucks because people have the freedom of speech and they have parody specifically, which is what like say the CLSSP falls under, where you say something with with a good faith that this is parody or satire, but then people take that seriously and want to make a huge stink out of it. And if any platforms comply to that, then that makes it ultimately easier for people down the road to use that as precedent. So I'm glad that Twitter is, I guess, fighting against this, but it just sucks that he's trying to do it.
I mean, people have tried to subpoena troll accounts in Australia before, and like they just guess who the person is, and it doesn't work. So it doesn't work.
Is it in the California court? If it is, haha, you already lost.
So it's probably time we go into the next one. We're running out of time for our news.
Yeah. So yeah, the next one here too interesting. This is multi-factor auth bypass on a ton of Office 365 and G Suite by just password spraying on IMAP, which bypasses multi-factor auth. And so it says that there's something about 60% of all MS 365 and G Suite tenants have been targeted using IMAP, and 25% of those were successful. So
IMAP disabled by default, right?
Mhm.
On G Suite. So I guess yeah, IMAP, G Suite. Well, if you don't need to enable it. Most clients support their own authentication method now. So
yeah, but it definitely shines a light though on the fact that there is a lot of that backwards compatibility you need for older services. That there might be whole giant organizations that might use some sort of like hosted Office 365 or something somewhere, and then they have to just backwards compatibility to all their email clients and then do some other hacky stuff. But then ultimately that will just put them at risk because of people who are just going to spend all day hitting their IMAP or hitting IMAP with passwords, try to get
they haven't migrated their proc mail to SNS topic.
Yeah.
Also, just on the Devin Nunes cow thing, going back, I just looked up the historical follower count, and it's up 230,000 followers.
Oh, well, at least they're getting the word out that that account is bad and nobody should listen to it.
Yeah,
from
5,000.
It's Devin's cow, right?
He should have taken Bart Simpson's advice there.
But
don't have a cow, man.
Exactly.
On the IMAP thing though, like the successful breaches, most attackers logged in on Nigerian IP addresses. So Nigerian princes are beating IMAP, guys.
Holy crap! Wow, I didn't see that part of the story. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So Nigerian princes are beating you if you're using IMAP.
Shout out to Lagos. So yeah, no, it's definitely check that out because G Suite and Office 365 make it really easy to have these sort of environments, but definitely make sure that you know what you're doing if you're going to be doing something like this. So yeah, and then the last one on here, I kind of just threw on here in case we got to it. It's just somebody just putting up 26 million user records for sale on the dark web. But a lot of this stuff is just weird sites I've never heard of, and it sucks that they got breached and they're being sold. But what is like youth manual, Indonesian youth student and career site? I don't know.
It doesn't really matter because whoever they are and they get breached, Troy Hunt's going to make money off it, and it will show up in your password that someone had the same password as you.
Yeah. So somebody got my Booklepak email, and it's going to show up in. Okay. No, I mean there's a lot of people on here. I don't. It's DB size. I think that means 13 million credentials. But yeah, I mean it's a lot. That's a lot of data. And it might just be because I'm not in this part of the world that I'm not using these kind of apps. But yeah, it's definitely somebody just doing the thing where they just try to sell it online for Bitcoin, and someone's gonna buy it, and then eventually it'll get dumped.
I think we're already there. Yeah, we're. I was gonna ask, when do you think we get numb to this? But I think we're there.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much numb to it unless it's something huge, like really massive, you know?
I mean, if you look at
Can we talk about how this guy's trying it for 1 million Indonesian youth student and career site records? They're salted Shaw 1 trying to get 0.144 bitcoins for it.
Expensive.
Yeah, and trying to do it for the Booklepak ones too. Like salted shot 512. Like
yeah,
there is IP address in there too, but there's other meta info in there. But I guess you could discern if you're specifically targeting like Indonesian youths. But it's definitely, I feel like people are when they try to value out these things, it's just very strange. They try to like make it seem like it's more valuable than it is. I don't know what the value of someone's hobbies are specifically.
With assaults, like I would assume that like in those tables, assault, like the SHA-1 plus salt, that the salt is also in the table, right?
Oh yeah, it's just plus salt. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be there as well. So cracking them won't be that big of a deal. Like it will be obviously take significantly longer, but if you got a bunch of ex Bitcoin mining rigs lying around, it's not going to take that long for SHA-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So also we got a couple of cool Goodreads and cheat codes. Thanks to dnoise and XX not Dan XX for your comments. There's some pretty good CVEs though that we should definitely check out. The Maple Story one.
Maple Story privilege escalation to NT authority system.
Oh wow, that's great.
Fucking amazing.
Yes, the Maple Story players, look out.
Beautiful stuff. So yeah, we should definitely get into our interview now. So follow me.
Before that, just big shout out to OX Dade and Comrade Evie for subscribing.
Oh, thank you for subscribing to us. I saw that at the same time we were talking about heavy stuff, so I do want to be like, shout outs to these people. Like, don't like and subscribe. Like, just be real 2019 about it. But yeah, let me take a look here. We got Harold, we got Verbal, we got Moonin, and the Veox.
Clay.
Hello, hi everybody. Welcome.
What's up?
Howdy.
Hey.
What's up? Hey, so you guys are part of BlueTeamVillage.
We sure are.
Hell yeah. So I guess, do you want to just jump right into it and just say, well, first off, introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about BlueTeamVillage?
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Sure, hello.
Yeah, so I'm Munin. I'm one of the folks who runs this this rather crazy thing that managed to get some Blue Team content into DEF CON, so that's kind of an interesting bit of fun right there. I'm that one private account that shows up on Twitter with the transparent avatar and is very grumpy and cantankerous.
It's good stuff.
Hi, I'm Verbal, the Australian one. I obviously help run BlueTeamVillage too. I do like a lot of the swag and the social media stuff and all that sort of fun designing stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Welcome.
All right, so go by Harold. It's what happens when you hang out with people when you don't have a handle. So I signed up with Blue Team Village last year, and it was kind of funny. I signed up as like a general volunteer, so I didn't have a lot of responsibilities, right? But I wanted to be involved, and I don't know what the hell happened, but somehow I'm a coordinator, and we're working on this thing nonstop, year round.
Awesome. Welcome.
And I guess the fourth member of our foursome is either not paying attention or has his microphone acting up. It's Clay. He's
I was muted.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Hello.
Yes. So Clay Ball or the Vox. That's a puzzle. Figure it out, and no one has yet. So yeah. I joined Blue Team Village last year. Super excited. Felt really good about year one. Looking really forward to this year. So yeah, and thanks for having us.
Hell yeah, thanks for being on.
Hey, sorry, I was just adjusting some levels real quick. But so I guess, do you guys want to tell us a little bit about what Blue Team Village is? Just from a high level.
Well, we are defensively focused. The traditional DEF CON hacker conference type thing is usually unapologetically attack focused. I mean, that's half the fun, isn't it? Is breaking things, is doing elite hacks. And we are focused more on the defensive side, detecting, stopping, and sometimes subverting these elite hacks to figure out ways to keep our assets, our organizations, our families safe. Not necessarily as an oppositional thing, but as a way to build and grow defensive knowledge and defensive infrastructure for the benefit of anyone who cares to come along and hang out with us.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
I sort of look at it from a different point of view whenever I come into, looking at technology in general. All the people that go to DEF CON, right, they go back. Most people are blue teamers in their day jobs. So, for me, a lot of times I'll spend half my time studying offensive tactics and, all the exploits that are out there, but that's really only half of it. Like breaking things is the easy mode. You're completely ignoring the other side of that. Like, the real work, I think, is learning how to defend those and, everything else that comes along with it. Because you break it, you go to the next thing and break it and you go to the next thing, but you're missing the second half, So to me, blue team is both. You learn offensive and defensive.
That's absolutely cool. We've had a lot of definitely had a lot of focus on being cynical breakers of things. We have a lot it's always good and refreshing to hear from people who have perspectives on how to fix stuff, because we say, oh, this is broken, you got to fix it, but it's difficult to sometimes provide solutions that make sense, not even just solutions, but ones that are actually applicable in the real world. And that's where we need people like you guys to come in and tell us what to do.
Yeah, that really hits the nail on the head there. I mean, how often have we seen people who have gone and vigorously broken something and say, well, okay, just patch it and you'll be fine. Well, yes, patching is good. I like patching. Patching makes me very happy. But sometimes it may be some period of time before a patch can get applied because of velocity of patching within your organization, because you have some kind of god-awful legacy horrible thing that will not take the patch, and you must use this old broken revision in order to actually use your $2 million MRI or what have you.
Enter the bureaucracy.
Yeah, well, that never helps either. We've got layer 7 for the application level. We got layer 8 for the user, and then layer 9 is the user's management, and that's the hard one.
I like that. It sounds like you're talking about ICS.
Oh, I mean, it applies other places too. But,
sure.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, especially with DEF CON, the types of CTF and the style of CTF there is all you don't have to do the write-up part of the red teaming and the attacking. So you get to do all the fun stuff and not the kind of crappier part about that job. But with blue teaming, the kind of crappier part about the blue teaming stuff is the entire thing. It's more spread out. So if that makes sense.
Reports are the best.
Yeah. Okay.
No, seriously though, I think we are all somewhat masochists, just as by our nature as being blue teamers.
Yeah, but there's also the blue team side of things has some very similar qualities to the red team side of things. We like figuring out puzzles. We like solving difficult challenges that we're confronted with. So we're like the sort of two sides of the same coin, but we have a lot more in common, I think, than people realize. And a very good red teamer would make a very good, an even better blue teamer, right?
Yeah,
like that
definitely.
really will.
The experience does synergize nicely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I mean, I see people that also are good blue teamers that would be excellent red teamers when you're like, where does this actually point to? Like, what is this? I don't even know what this firewall is. What is this application? And like, oh, well, yeah, you just do it like this, and then you just like secure it. But there's a bug in it, and I know I've got that bug, but we haven't patched it yet. Like, those are the people that actually know how things actually work instead of having to spend as much time as we do reading the docs and reverse engineering things. So.
Sure, right. And I think the Blue Team Village gives us that opportunity to collaborate and to come together and to share our stories and to share our experiences and learn from each other.
So what kind of projects and events do you do at the Blue Team Village during DEF CON, like during DEF CON proper?
Oh boy, we are right in the thick of planning all that. Big, huge, enormous shout out, however, to our lovely CTF folks, because we have one of the very, very few defensive-oriented CTFs associated with us. So receive our very good friend Eric there.
Open sock.
It's pretty interesting.
There we go.
It's a different take on the CTFs for sure. So
so they set up. They have different scenarios, right? That's what their CTF presents you with, and a handful of open source tools that you have access to pull in all of this data and use. So you can write your own sort of queries to find things, but there are scenarios that you run through that are start off fairly easy, but get more and more complicated as you go along. So yes, we're happy to have them back this year. But we're also interested in having other hands-on things for people to do. So we're working out those details at the moment.
Yeah, we'll be having some workshops and stuff. I mean, we've recently opened our call for talks and our call for workshops. So I think that's something that we're really focusing on this year is just as much hands-on kind of like, blue team hacker-like kind of stuff that we can get in there.
There's a couple other things that we want to try out. A meet a mentor type session where people can socialize with those who are potentially able to give them guidance outside of DEF CON. But we'll see what we can do in terms of getting people who are willing to engage in that kind of activity first.
Yeah, if you're interested, reach out to us by all means.
Oh, we're always interested.
Oh, yeah.
Oops, sorry, I haven't realized my thing on here. Yeah, so I mean, I guess, do you want to get into a little bit about how y'all started this to create a village proper?
Interesting story.
It's a long and convoluted story, and
no, it's not. It's like a love story. It really is.
I don't know what kind of rom-coms you've been watching, my friend.
So is it like a Romeo and Juliet or a Midsummer Night's Dream?
No,
more
it's more like a
Night's
comedy
Dream.
of errors.
I would think everybody probably has their own take
no.
on this. It's probably a different story from everybody.
I mean, if anyone's really to blame at this point, I kind of got the others roped into it as we were trying to see. None of us had actually done this village thing before, and
Nah.
yeah. So I got it suggested to me by Highwiz, I think it was, that I ought to put in along with Gomer there to get Blue Team Village going, and then things kind of got out of control. And
yeah, Farticus didn't help with that either, did he?
Well, he did help
he just got things out of control real quick.
So yeah, long story short, all of a sudden there we are, finally meeting in person for the first time. The Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? It was Wednesday night, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, when it was like Wednesday night. Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday night, I finally meet these people for the first time, and
after like spending almost every Saturday Skyping each other for like a year.
Right. And of course, our dear departed friend Devnull was like instrumental in getting things actually working. And there we are at Caesar's Palace the Wednesday before, actually meeting each other in person for the first time and going, oh, wow, so that's what you look like, huh?
Yeah, everything just kind of fell in place. You know, the ball just started to get rolling. Munin and I started figuring things out. Harold got on board. Verbal got on board. We had started chatting.
Great volunteers too who showed up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then, as it happened, there was this whole question of, well, we were going to have to clear out early one of the days for a wedding. And then there was just one thing after another. And then
to put a bit of context behind the wedding, because people probably have no idea. Yeah, so there was actually a wedding booked in our route in our Blue Team Village that night. So we had to do a pack down and a full pack up the next day. That was fun.
Oh, geez. And then, of course, we opened the doors, and there was just people.
We had like 300 shirts behind the table. Everything was gone in like 4 minutes.
Just
literally,
and it was
gone.
Yeah, I spent the day in a very mild panic attack because I didn't realize so many people would even get there, because we were kind of tucked out of the way there, and then of course
it's pretty crazy actually.
The fun line management issues with Sky Talks because our lines were touching. That was always
don't cross the streams.
Oh, the stream cross there. So yeah, it was wildly successful beyond anything I dreamed of. So we decided afterwards, well, hell, we're insane. We're all masochists. Let's do it again.
Yes.
And we're working on doing some expansion. We're in talks with Circle City Con to have a little presence there, get a little workshop going on there, and see exactly how far can we push this idea.
Yeah, we've definitely expanded like a lot for this year. Like we've got a bunch of leads who are volunteers that stepped up and are helping us out. So yeah, we've got a pretty successful year so far.
So
it's been
what
great.
Could I expect? Like if I'm working up to the Blue Team Village, like what can I expect, just so people have an idea of like why they want to come?
Oh my.
Well, I mean, this year we're really focusing on, is kind of getting kind of the hands-on. I mean, obviously we're talking about before kind of the overlap between the blue team and red team. Like, we're still kind of going for that really kind of cool sort of atmosphere with like, just really chill and chill vibes and stuff, but still having kind of that hands-on experience with, the workshops and We're planning on having talks as well, but I think this year we're really honing in on the workshops.
Yeah, we want to get as much interactive and participatory content going as possible.
What would be what are some of the workshops you've run before? Like, what do you think was the most successful one that people got to participate?
Plural, he says, as though we've done this more than once.
Traffic
Just
analysis.
say that you have. It's okay.
Yeah, the packet traffic analysis. Yeah, that sold out in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, there
were free tickets, but all the tickets were released in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we actually sold some tickets before we made it public. Like, what the fuck? How do people know that?
yeah.
I mean, hackers.
Yeah.
You gotta expect it.
It was pretty crazy actually. We ended up having like 250 people in this workshop. It was nuts.
So yeah, there's that. We've got our wonderful friends at OpenSock bringing back the CTF this year. They did an absolutely fantastic job last year, and by the looks of what I've been seeing, it's going to be even better this year. They've really gone absolutely full bore in putting together a really great setup to run this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So really looking
last year
forward
in total, I think there were roughly around 300 people playing, around the clock for the entire time. And I think the ones that are doing that, to where they kind of got outside that box of the vulnerable virtual machines, finding the flags. Whereas this, you're doing incident response, and the guys that are over at Trace Labs doing the open source intelligence CTFs. I think the ones that are getting outside of that standard template for CTFs, I think they're really going to start to take off in the next year or two.
Yeah, it and the level of participation for that was frankly astonishing to me. I mean, they had there was that party that night, the Lonely Hackers Club party. Apparently, like, there were a bunch of people in the corner just hacking away on the CTF.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. The one really awesome thing that OpenSock did was they used zero tier to that people basically accessed the CTF via that mechanism, so they could go anywhere at DEF CON and participate. So they didn't have to be inside the village, but they would come there, register in person, get the face-to-face interaction, and then they could sit and hang out, which a lot of them did, of course. But yeah, it gave them the freedom, the flexibility to move around and still participate.
I saw people after Whose Slide Was It Anyway? As I was walking out of there, I saw people doing that CTF in the halls over at Caesar. And that was like, whoa, that is
nice.
That is, it's a really great CTF, apparently. I wish I had the time to actually do anything with it.
Do you want to give a real quick overview of kind of how it works and like some of the more intricate ins and outs, maybe?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure because I was busy doing other things during all of that.
Yeah, I was kicking the tires the night before the village opened. They were going through some of their scenarios and everything. So that was awesome. I'm thrilled to have that opportunity. But so I kind of mentioned this before, where they have scenarios set up. So, and you can run through the scenario. So say the scenario is a phishing attempt. Okay, so that's where it starts. So you use these various tools to figure out an answer to one of the questions. So it is pretty much like a Jeopardy style, right? CTF. And so, but you get that, and then you go on to the next. You don't have to do them sequentially, of course, but it's built in that fashion. So you can go sequentially through the scenario, or you can jump around. And of course, if you're working with a team, you got a couple people with you, you can spread it out. You can spread the love. Everyone can be working on something a little bit different. And this year, they're what they're going to do is apply for being
like badge.
Black badge, yes. So we'll see how that goes, but they're doing everything in their power to make that happen. Everything's going to be self-contained. It's going to be portable, yada, yada, yada. Lots of upgrades. So yeah, we're very excited to have them back and to see where that takes them, and us.
Yeah, I hear they're actually changing it up a little bit this year. They're still going to use some of the open source software they used last year, like the Graylog, CollideWaza, other software like that. But I think that they're going to change it a bit, so it's not the exact same this year. So it should just get better and better.
Yeah,
I know the hardware's
yeah.
got quite an upgrade. They've gone from a couple of NUCs to I think like two.
Oh, it's
two
one of those
servers.
4G cases. It's a thing of beauty. I like literally started salivating when he posted that picture.
So
Yeah, that
what
case
would you
is
like
so
people?
cool.
What would you like people to take away? Like when they come to the Blue Team Village, what do you want them to take home with them after seeing all this like red team stuff and all this like attacker stuff? Like what are some takeaways you think that people can sort of?
They're going to learn something. They're going to learn something, and even if it's how to use new tools or how to find different sorts of evil in an environment. I don't know, but they're going to learn something, guaranteed.
I think one of the things that I heard most last year was that many of the people I spoke to appreciated having that kind of perspective available to them in that venue. So that they could go to all these talks on breaking things, but they liked having the representation of well, okay, here's the other side of the story. Here's this other perspective. And in some cases, it may inspire people that, you can actually do defensive work. It's a valid skill set to have. It may not always be the most exciting, main stage. Look at us all cheering the release of Back Orifice, but you can get some really cool stuff done, and it can occasionally, on very rare occasions, when the stars are just right and the moon is aligned, it'd be kind of fun.
It's always fun.
Well, okay. It's fun for us. It may not necessarily be always fun for other people because we are, of course, shameless masochists.
Yeah, and there's so many topics on the defensive side. It's not just stopping bad things from happening. It's not just patching. It's not just updating your, making sure you have AV on every machine, all that BS. But there's, incident response. There's forensics. How do you do those sorts of things?
There's also something that's dearly close to my heart. It's taking red team tools and corrupting them for blue team uses.
Yes.
That's
fun. So piggybacking off of what DNZ said, though, I was going to ask at the same time as he asked his, what kind of skills are you specifically trying to build, if any, with your village? Like, is there, as blue teamers, is there any core skills that you really want to, I guess, put out there and develop with people so that you can potentially hire them?
Well, I don't know about hiring because we certainly try and promote people as much as we can, certainly. But one of the things that we made a conscious decision to promote this year was, in fact, DFIR, so digital forensics and incident response. We have a lot of interest for that within our existing volunteers. And we had a lot of comments that people want to see more of that. So that's one of the items that we are definitely going to focus more on this year than we did last year.
I'm still pushing for the phishing research.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Shout out Woodton.
I know we're also going to be planning some like networking events, I guess, as well for for people to, blue teamers to network with each other as well. So, we're planning on having, our talks in sort of one area and kind of a networking area in the other section, so people can just, mingle and hang out and talk and, chat about, blue team stuff.
It's great. It's very good. I had a quick question. I don't think anybody's touched on it yet. Are you guys gonna plan on doing anything with Hackback?
So perhaps if the right talk shows up in our queue or the right workshops shows up in our queue, we might consider it. I
would say
I'm
yes.
not going to push that myself
I think
because
the laws are stupid, but yeah, there should be some level of responsible offensive defensive tactics. What I mean by that is, like, say you go out and you configure a mail filter to try and avoid phishing. Some of it's still going to get through, but you take those ones that do get through. You can still go after those domains. Take down requests, things like that. But you can also run tools on it to where you run back and you scan every single domain on that same host, usually on a shared host like GoDaddy. There's 1,000 domains on there. So you just scan them all looking for those zip files, those open directories. If you can identify all their infrastructure, send those takedown requests. You can take down their whole organization at once and disrupt their operations. I think that's an area that doesn't have enough research, but it is a way that through using offensive tactics, you can still defend the network that way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at too. Is that it would be somewhat controversial in the first place because it's a controversial idea, right? But it also, whether it fails or not, could show here are the pitfalls of it potentially.
It gets into that whole messy question of attribution too.
Right.
I will be much more talkative about this if it's not being recorded. Let's just say that.
Fair enough.
I have plenty of opinion, but they're not really suitable for public consumption. So yeah. Come see us at BlueTeamVillage now.
Price is one beer or drink of human's choice.
Say again?
The price is one beer or any other drink of your choice.
Sold.
I'll take a shot of whiskey.
What is it?
I'll take a shot of whiskey, Irish preference.
There you go. Verbal, what's your drink?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like the vodka pineapple.
All right.
Really tropical, vodka pineapple, maybe chucking some Malibu in there.
I like it.
Love that Malibu.
Hmm?
You love that Malibu.
Yes, love the tropical taste.
We got to get you over to one of the tiki bars and get your something dark and
If you get me
stormy.
there, I'll probably never leave otherwise.
Okay, so after DEF CON. Okay.
Yes, that'd be the best. Just before the plane ride.
What about you, not Dan?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on what year it is. Last year it would have been like Sprite, Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
This year it might be booze. I don't know. It depends on
Club soda?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Get you a LaCroix. Get you a
Club
Pamplemousse.
soda.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
That's the new icing. Get somebody with a liquor.
Maybe some of that like Voss water, or like some.
Too funny.
Oh my.
Well, what kind of talks are you looking for this year? You were talking about like defer and stuff like that, and hackback if someone did it. But I guess what sort of content specifically are you looking for? Because we see a lot of really diverse content, and then we also have a lot of really, really specific content in the different villages. And I'm just wondering, in case anybody is listening here who'd want to present something, what kind of things you would be interested in seeing.
So anything defensive is fair game, even if it's only just primarily defensive. We will certainly give it a read over and a careful and fair evaluation. I will note that I'm not the one in charge of making these selections, so I can just
we review it as a big team. I think we all have our personal preference of what kind of talks we like to see.
Yeah. So I'm definitely interested in seeing defer. because we do want to have more of a focus for that this year. Anyone who talks about repurposing tools outside of their intended use for defensive purposes has my attention.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So
Yeah, I'm a
that's-
huge fan of tool repurposing for sure.
And is there anywhere people can maybe see any of the old talks, or at least what they were about, so that they don't double up on something that happened last year?
Yeah, so we've actually got it on, we've got it on, I believe, YouTube somewhere. All of our talks were recorded last week, which was pretty cool. They were uploaded to DEF CON's YouTube, and they're also on our website. So yeah, there's on our website, just under our archive of DC26, you'll be able to see all the talks, and as well as about the speaker as well, and information about our workshops and stuff as well.
BlueTeamVillage.org.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. So yeah, honestly, we are again relatively new. We've only had the one last year, so there's a lot of different topics that have not yet been addressed. It's still a pretty damn open field. So go wild. Give us
just submit.
I mean, we're already we already have several people who are locked in to evaluate this stuff, and I mean, do you want them to have a free weekend? Who knows what kind of trouble they could get into?
Would you say there's any specific gap that you're kind of looking for? Like you've got guys that are doing, people that are doing maybe packet analysis, and maybe you're lacking some Windows defense guys that need to talk. Maybe give some people some hints.
Oh no, seriously. When I say the field is pretty open, it's really open. We have a lot of areas that have barely even been touched, if at all. So seriously, if in doubt, submit. Just read the guidelines and try and be complete about make sure all the fields are filled in correctly, and give us a nice solid outline.
Actually, one of my favorite talks from last year was the one done by Lady Red. She did it on espionage. That was awesome. That was such a good talk. So I mean, there's always I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's always a defensive side to everything. So whether you're this was the defensive side to social engineering and espionage. So with every sort of kind of topic, if there's an offensive side, there's also a way you can defend against it too.
Yeah, I think towards the beginning somebody mentioned that there was a lot of crossover, and like you said, if there's somebody just starting out and you're interested in whatever X for that usually a red team does, but they're filled up or whatever, there's a blue team's angle to it. They're gonna make a good blue teamer as well. I think you were mentioning it, but yeah, there's red teamers make good blue teamers make good red teamers. So don't be afraid to just put yourself in the red team's box.
Yeah, it's really just a slight change of perspective, and you realize exactly how many of your skills apply.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mind you, I have stayed blue team very, very carefully. So we don't want me to go red team.
I don't know about that. I think I'd like to see Munin doing a little bit of red team stuff. I think that could be interesting.
I was gonna say, says who?
I don't want to see me do red team.
Well, that's fair.
Oh my. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun putting all this together, and it's been very gratifying to see the enthusiasm with which it's been accepted, even at a historically red team type venue like DEF CON.
Are there any other talks, or I mean, any conferences that do have more of a blue team focus that you guys want to shout out?
There's a few out there. I'm trying to.
There are a few, but isn't that an interesting point? Is that we can't just provide you the names with these off the top of our heads?
Yeah, right.
I have to fucking Bing it.
Dear Google.
Hey, you have to Bing it.
I have to
You know,
Bing it.
That's the first time I've ever heard somebody say that. Non-ironic.
I've only ever said that as a joke, but I hope it is true.
I
Sorry,
don't know, I've got it on my network.
No one ever says keep calm and Bing it. It's always keep calm and Google it.
I thought it was Bing Fraser done.
This podcast has been brought to you by Bing.com.
I think that I'll prepare some ASCII art and we'll put a press release out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
But Hasta La Vista, the real hacker search engine, never forget.
Alta Vista.
Hasta La Vista. All, like there's like a hacker version that was like from the 90s.
Box.sk.
Yeah. That's what it was.
It's been years since I've heard that name.
Get up your cereals here.
Wow. I mean, if we want to get all retro tonight.
Always.
I think that was really before Google existed, actually.
Wait, there was a time before Google? I'm joking.
Don't believe it.
There is one conference I like to give a shout out to. If you like to travel, it's called Code Blue. It's in Tokyo.
Oh yeah, I heard about that one. Actually, I think I might actually be stopping by at some point this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's neat.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, of course. I will note that of all the conferences that I've been to, the B-Sides group has had the best representation in a relatively mainstream conference of Blue Team considerations. Goodness knows they've let me speak on a couple of times for whatever reason. But yeah, it's definitely a good conference series, and I highly recommend that if anyone is out there looking for a good first conference to go to, consider B-Sides.
Yeah, B-Sides was my first, actually. Which one did you go to?
Me in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, neat. Awesome.
Never
Nice,
been.
nice.
Yeah, and we can credit or blame as appropriate Jack Daniel for inspiring me to go the first time. It's all his fault. So
Good stuff.
I thought you meant Jack Daniel as in like the bourbon, or do you mean like?
No.
Drank too much whiskey one night. Yeah, I got a real good idea there, didn't you?
I mean, I won't say that the bourbon did not have a effect here, but no, it did. Jack Daniel, our friend with the envy-worthy beard.
He's the founder of B-Sides.
Second?
The founder of B-Sides.
Yes, the founder of B-Sides, Lord of the Tiki, he of the great and terrible beard and the top hat. Yeah, it's his fault or his credit for getting me into this whole mess. So thank you, Jack, and very glad that you took the time to speak to a total noob as I was at the time.
Gotta respect the noobs.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing right there for imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it. Nervousness, like everybody starts out somewhere, even the people that are talking right now.
Absolutely, 100%.
can
You just got to
definitely
jump
say
in and
that.
do shit.
Yeah,
I mean-
alcohol definitely like gave me the courage.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, you
want
just
to
gotta do it.
You want to talk imposter syndrome? I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing half the time. I'm just making this up as I go along.
Same here.
I think they call that being an adult.
Adulting, yes.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
So I have a question just to get your opinions on it, because we've been alluding in certain ways to the fact that Blue Team just doesn't really get as much love as it should. What do you think some of the major things are that prevent Blue Team from receiving the spotlight? Because people who do save the day, like the people who are behind the scenes every day, making sure that our credit cards don't get stolen and our power grid doesn't get exploded, those kinds of things are very important. That's like superhero status kind of stuff in a lot of ways. But what are some of the reasons why you think that people don't give as much attention to that specifically?
Well,
Have
the
you
better
ever
we
seen a
do our
news story?
Well, yeah, and the better we do our job, the less you notice we exist. I
Yeah.
mean,
NDAs
if
are a
we
big
do our
issue
job
too,
right, you'll never speak to us.
Yeah. It's only when something fucks up that you get called.
I mean, it's not quite that bad. I mean, there's a lot of room in, for instance, developer outreach, organizing defensive information security policy, speaking with system owners about vulnerabilities and patching schedules, speaking with your ops team with respect to putting mitigations in place, handling monitoring considerations. It's not quite fair to say that nobody ever talks to us except when something goes wrong, because there is a substantial and pervasive preventative aspect to blue teaming. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, at least. So there's always that, and it's perhaps not glamorous. Is fair to say. I mean, we don't go doing leet hacks on stage most of the time. We're not exactly going to go and make a card fly sideways. Most of our stuff is focused around preventing is sideways flying cars and that kind of thing. So, in as much as we don't have the stunts that get the attention, there's perhaps a bit of that aspect.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really hard to. It's difficult to kind of drive that point home to management sometimes. You might have all this sophisticated monitoring in place, even a mature state of alerts that you've developed over time. But that's part of it too. It takes time to develop those things. But if you're not seeing anything, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't mean what you're doing isn't working, or that what you're doing doesn't have a lot of value to it. So that's a very real struggle that the defensive side of things has to deal with on a daily basis. How do you report those sort of things to upper management?
That and there's also a difficulty to some extent in measuring effectiveness.
Absolutely.
Which is how a lot of these really crappy vendors get away with it. Because yes, they can claim that they've blocked 800 million attacks. But what's defined as an attack, and
every time someone pings you.
Well, yeah, exactly. And also there's the whole notion that most of the easy to understand metrics are going to be driven externally, which means that your higher profile company, or a company who just shows up in the news, is going to get more quote unquote attacks than a company that just quietly does business and most people ignore. It's that whole economy of attention. There are, and I kind of can't believe I'm saying this, but there's not enough attackers out there to really justify half the budget.
Yeah, and that's where data analytics, I think, really comes into play and can really be beneficial to an organization when you start tracking things over time, and you can start measuring all of the things over time. That's where you can weed out a lot of the BS and a lot of the crap, and get down to sort of what's important in your defense of the organization overall. But that takes time to develop. That takes a lot of maturity. Again, and it's hard to sort of sell that to upper management. So that's just a challenge.
And I see we have a pertinent question there from chat as a blue teamer. how do you tell risk management people? Quit trying to check boxes and stuff. But yeah,
exactly.
If you find out a good way to do that would be a great basis for a talk. Actually, constant struggle to find a good way to get people to focus less on compliance and such, and focus more on actual actionable things.
Exactly, and that's where I would lean on data, and that's why data is so important, and learning how to use and analyze that data over time. And it's not just one data point. It's not just one attack or one DDoS attempt. It's all sorts of things over time.
There's
yeah,
a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Without data, it's just an opinion. Yeah.
You can use the compliance push in some respects if you can go and tie the projects that you want to see that solve problems to specific compliance controls and tell the compliance side, hey, we need to check this box, and there's different ways to do it, but this way here that will actually do a good job is going to be the one that does it the best, and that may help in some instances to get buy-in for at least one project. It is a constant struggle, though.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing challenge.
Usually pen test findings are a pretty good case study, though. You know, when you can show this is vulnerable, it's not just in the news, you know, this is let's do it, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say that's a pretty good lead in. Like so during a pen test engagement, while you're trying to blue team, you know, do you like say there's a third party, it's a third party pen test and you don't get to, you know, tag team or whatever. How do you go about like dealing with that? Do you just like let the attacks come in and watch it, or do you actively, you know, what do you guys kind of do as an approach while you know that test is going on?
So you'll want to wait for the ibuprofen to wear off before you get to the whiskey, because you can't combine those two.
Right.
You shouldn't combine those two. Come on.
Well, if you do, it will turn out very badly for you, and you'll have another kind of red teaming happening.
Jeez.
Damn it! I knew I was doing something wrong.
No, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can approach it, whether it's, you know, white box, black box, or doing more of a purple team engagement. For me, I tend to prefer to do just a, you know, complete black box engagement where I don't tell them much about the network, to where I make them go out and do that reconnaissance, you know, find our domains and our servers, things like that. They're talking to the internet, and then let them just do their thing. And, you know, I know it's happening, so I'm going to sit and watch logs, watch the IDS, things like that as it's going on. But I don't whitelist anything because I want to know what's going to trigger an alert.
Yeah.
I want to know what that, you know, that point is. How much can they do on the network without triggering the alert? And kind of tune those, hit on it.
So there's also the maturity of your organization and of your organization's logging and monitoring platforms. That's going to make a large difference in how you approach this. If you have a very mature organization, then Harold's approach might work well. If you have a less mature organization that you know there are certain gaps in monitoring and such, then a pen test is not going to be terribly useful to you in that fashion. You might want to go with a more cooperative approach so that you're able to address not only the gaps that you know exist, but other things that may or may not show up in your monitoring platform as you have it. And, you know, there's a lot of shades of gray here too. it's really going to depend a lot.
You mean
on
shades of blue?
Yes.
Cool. So, like, I guess another thing is like, there's a lot of blind spots, I suppose, in organizations, particularly younger organizations, or even the older organizations that have implemented things sort of in different teams and haven't told each other. Is there any advice you could give on like finding blind spots on that kind of?
Oh my. Oh, it's just be prepared that when you turn over one rock, you're gonna see a lot of roaches underneath. It's never just one thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's best not to look, but in all seriousness, though, having insight into your network, having that visibility is key and should be the first step.
Yep.
Right. And doing what you can to facilitate communication and collaboration within the organization, or even if it's two different organizations that have a trust relationship, just taking that extra step or that first step into trying to communicate better or make something happen is sometimes all that's needed, right? And the rest will follow.
And so this is going to sound a little funny, but pulling the thread is going to get you really great results, even though it may not look very structured. So if you find one thread, one system that is unaccounted for in your asset inventory or something, and you find out who owns it, you go ahead and pull the thread. Ask them, what else do you know about? And you may well unravel the whole sweater, as it were, just by following that one thread that you're working with. Because that one person, chances are they're going to know about more than one thing you don't know. So you can keep on finding out, okay, so who else knows about this system, and go with them. Okay, who knows? What else do you know about, and who knows about that thing? And then you can just keep on finding out things and growing more and more horrified, but at the same time, better coverage over what assets you have.
Yeah, and your environment is your vertical, whatever vertical you're in, is probably gonna help dictate how much of that is possible or already known, right? Like if you're in the financial sector, you should have a really good freaking grip on what's going on your network. Right? I mean, you should, right? In theory, I don't work in that sector at all, but but in academia where I work, it's a whole other set of challenges that you're presented with. So being on the defensive side is not stagnant, or it's not like one thing. It varies widely depending on the vertical, not just your organization, right? You have research going on. They have to be required to do this. They have to be allowed to do that. So how do you manage that? How do you help defend them and the rest of your organization, for that matter? There are a lot of real challenges, and hopefully we'll get some talks that target these sorts of challenges as well, because I mean, we're all faced with this on some level.
Oh yeah, it's always something new and different every day, whether you want it to be or not.
That's what they say, but is it? I challenge that. Is it really that different? There's always that XP machine underneath the desk in the corner. In the basement.
I had 2 new things in the past week, so it may not be every day, but that's certainly 2 things I had not seen before. So
nice.
Well, yeah, that was that's been getting fun. So, but that's the way this industry goes. Is there's always something new. Just have to wonder when it's going to show up on your network.
Right.
Well, maybe you'll be the first to see it.
Yeah, that's always a really lovely feeling when you go to look up a problem and find out no one has seen it before.
Either that, or when you look it up and someone goes, "Oh, I have this problem," and then they go, "Oh, never mind, I fixed it," and then that's the end of the thread.
In 2003.
Yeah, always useful.
Beautiful stuff. Hey, so we're actually running or it's almost the end of the show here. Do you guys have any shout outs or any last words that you want to give before we go?
Submit to our CFP.
Yes, definitely. OpenSock is awesome.
Greylog for sure.
Greylog is awesome. They were an amazing part of last year's, and we're very pleased to see them coming back this year.
We should probably give a shout out to DEF CON for having us.
Absolutely. And also to Circle City, because we're going to show up there and make a proper mess of things. We do plan a little bit better than we let on, but there's always something in there. Who else? All these people that we know and love, and
our volunteers that are awesome.
Yes.
Our volunteers are like a huge part of what we did last year and this year as well. So shout out to all of our awesome village leads
For
who
sure.
I know some of them are listening. Cheers for helping us.
Shout out to you guys for having us. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And apparently my Shadowrun group is paying attention, so hey.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming. We'll be excited to see you guys at DEF CON and see where this project goes. But yo, so quick before, I have a couple announcements before we get going. I definitely want to shout out all of our patrons. Thanks everybody here. I was kind of slow with the CLSSPs, but going to be trying to mail them out ASAP again, especially for all the new people who came on recently. So our patrons include Dusty Fresh, ZLZ, Hamburger Keyboard, M Housewrath, Delesh, Mark J, James, Arlith, Gabe, Rain, Fractal Zero, Woodsman, Who, Derek, Talon, Jerry, Brian, G, Ryan, Walsky, Ire, D. Helton, Null Cookies, Gojira, Sinad, DVD Freytag, Rufflewitz, and Zors. Thanks everybody for giving us stuff. We have some cool projects down the road that we are really excited to be able to roll out, and we thank everybody for supporting us here. Also, thanks to Gatorbite who just subbed us on Twitch as well. Good stuff. And then I guess the next announcement that I have is next week is our 1 year anniversary of ThugCrowd. If you have been with us since before even that, we've been on the air for about a year and a month now. But we officially started this podcast in its current form with the same people and everything a year ago. And so we are going to be trying to figure out what to do for a 1 year anniversary show and celebration. We'll probably have some clips and definitely want to get the John McAfee interview going as well, so we can you guys finally hear that. And we also will be working after that. We're gonna take a break for about I don't know how long, maybe a couple weeks, few weeks, to regroup and plan as we try to restructure our podcast to make it a bit more efficient. Now that we've learned a lot in a year, but just keep watching our Twitter, because we'll be putting out the information about what all this means shortly. So thanks everybody for supporting us and hanging out.
Yeah, we'll. I guess this is the next week will probably be the season finale, and then hopefully ThugCrowd Plus.
If they pick us up for next season, yeah, the network.
Yeah,
we're going to Netflix. Yeah,
Netflix. If you're listening, Amazon Prime, send us that money. We can definitely do with it. Thank you.
Yeah. The Netflix representative, have they reached out to us? Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
So Burgertronic, thanks for that.
I think the harder thing for them will be to prove that they don't sponsor us and we're not on their network.
Yeah,
That's
If
why.
anyone has any Netflix bugs, we'll pay more to put our show on there.
Yeah, how much does the Rhodium have for that? Or they have a bug bounty? What is it? But yeah, no. So thanks everybody. Seriously though, we've had an awesome year. It's been really crazy. I have way too many thoughts and things to say about it. So we'll have it in a way that you guys understand without just me word vomit rambling at you. So yeah. Thanks. Shout out to everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
And thanks to Burgatronic again, who just subscribed as well. Beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us, guys.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks for being on.
Au revoir, mon ami.
I don't think anybody gave
Cheers.
love to Gopher.